Yo, what's going on, guys? Cam from Team Table One, and today we on the channel we have a guest, Rich Lee, first place Infernoble Knights, dude. How are you feeling?
Dude, I'm feeling great. Thanks for having me on the channel, Cam.
Yeah, no
Uh,
problem.
I don't know if it's just Infernobles, but when you get to talk to other Infernoble players, or when you meet someone who also plays your deck, it just feels so good because literally I'm the only one in Houston who plays this Infernoble deck, and it's a rogue deck. I don't know how it is in Missouri where you're from, or can't. Where you from? Are you from
Can't yeah,
Kansas?
Kansas City. I feel the same way, man. Nobody plays this deck.
This deck is just so feared. Like, I just want to talk a little bit about my experience playing the deck before I go through the profile. But since it's a rogue deck, a lot of people they don't know how to play around it, right? And this is kind of one of those decks where if you do not know how to play against this deck, you just get severely punished, because if you hand trap the wrong thing and you're able to extend, it's just as good as ripping another card from their hand, because
Yep.
their whole hand is gonna be gone if they hand trap you incorrectly. You don't even need to rip the hand trap.
Yeah, I completely agree. The amount of times people will impermazold and then I just go full combo, send for cost, and then all I have to have is just like one warrior in the hand, and then it's just game over.
Yeah, and just the the pure feeling of just I think if you ever watch some of Jesse Cotton's videos, he goes
Hmm.
man, it just feels so good to play through 5 back row as a combo deck. You just feel so accomplished. Well, for this deck, I feel like when I get to play through 3 hand traps, it just feels so good. I'll play
Yep.
through Perm Nibiru, Token Collector Nibiru, Draw, Lancia. They're like, how do you stop this deck? People at my locals literally have a side discussion of how to beat this deck. They're like, oh, you just hit the Rorodon, oh, you just hit the Hulk, where do you hit it? Do you hit the Neo Space Connector? And to be honest, it just depends on what the deck, the end board is very linear, the end board that you're trying to get to, which is
Hmm.
okay. But it's just, I feel like it's just kind of freestyle getting up to that point. It's very
Yep.
non-linear getting up to the Auroradon.
Yep.
There's so many things you can do. I've made a Savage Dragon before going into my Hulk. That's kind of protect the Auroradon, and just trying to go full combo pretty much,
Yeah.
right?
Sometimes that's just how it works with this deck. All right, let's see what you got for us, Rich.
All right. So I'm gonna start off with the stars of my deck, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I would just like to point out that a lot of people typically will run 4 starters in their deck. They'll run 3 Neo Space Connector
Yep.
and a Rhoda. I decided to opt for more of a more consistent build, since we run so many dead cards in our deck, that I decided to go for 7 starters instead of 4. I know the ratio is, if you run 3 starters, it's like a 33% chance you open it. I'm not sure what 4 is,
I think it's
but
around
my
maybe like
three.
a 38. No, I think it's a little. It's like 40 something. I don't know the exact percent.
So I know that with my 46 card build list, if I run 7 starters, I have a 58% chance of seeing a starter card, and any one of these cards just gets you a full combo.
Right.
So the reasoning for running Sublimation Knight is just a really good card in my opinion, because it can beat over the Wind Barrier statue. A lot of people are running Flunderies, and our monsters do not have more than 1,000 attack, believe it or not. The
Yeah.
strongest card we have is Ogier, which I cut because I
Oh.
want to run more starter cards. I've carefully designed this card because you don't want to run too many normal summons in a deck, right?
Right.
But the crazy thing about Sublimation Knight is he triggers on special summon as well.
Ooh.
So this Neo Space Connector, if you open Neo Space Connector, it's a 1 card Appaloosa or a 1 card Axis Code Talker. Because you can dump 3 spells off of a Soul Day, special summon a Sublimation Knight, Knight effect, equip the Squeak Knight. There you go, you have 4 bodies, you have still
Yep.
4 cards in your hand, 5 cards if you're getting second to break the entire board.
That's
I feel like
nice.
that just gives you a lot of utility. The other thing I wanted to point out is if you've been playing Infernoble Knights, you know that once you've already resolved your Neo Space Connector, your top decks become not as good if you need to come back. And what I mean by that is you need a top deck like a Gear Freed or a DDR, but you have
Yeah.
no 1 card of Soul Day anymore, right? You have no like it helps in the grind game to have a card that just generates so much advantage. It's a +1, right, as a normal summon.
Mm-hmm.
So it just helps in the resource game. The other thing I'd like to point out is Sublimation Knight is a 1-card Herald of Arclight.
Yeah. It's a level 3, correct? Yeah, it is a level 3.
So Squeak Knight has this effect where you can special summon him and you can make him a tuner, but you're only allowed to special summon once out of the extra deck. So in the grind game, as you already know, you already go through your entire extra deck, okay? Like, you have like maybe like 1 or 2 cards left once you go full combo, right?
Right.
But what this really helps is like for your follow-up, you always have a gear freed, right? Like typically, like if you've played the deck, you always have a gear freed for follow-up, right? But a lot of times, like your gear freed's gonna get negated, or it just becomes very awkward, like because they're gonna try and negate the activation, especially some of the gear freed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what you can do here to control the game state is you just normal summon your Sublimation Knight if you have it, and you just make a Herald to protect your gear free play going through, just like how you would protect your Auroradon play going through. So yeah, those were my 7 starters, and then we run like the 2 so-called, like, they're not really bricks because you can normal summon them in a warrior. I actually like opening Dolphin. I don't think it's bad at all.
Yep.
Dolphin with the extenders is really good. It just plays through Ash and stuff like that. Ulti first Dolphin.
Gotta show it off.
Art.
What other monsters are in? What other fire warriors are in here? What is your ratios here?
We got around 3 Power Ranger. This card is
Power
amazing.
Ranger? Yeah, he's really good.
Red Layer, if you open this card with Neospace Connector, you're just winning the game. It's FTK. It's so good. You just rip any card from their hand at that point.
Yep.
Also, the loop effect on this card is so good. I was in a simplified game state where like we're top decking, and he just has a big monster and he just keeps attacking into my red layer, and then the next turn I just special red layer, add it back, and it just bought me like 4 or 5 turns from like not dying until I could top deck a Gear Freed and kill him.
There you go.
But just like that body, like the simplified game states where you're just top decking, I feel like this card just has a lot of that. We run 3 Oliver.
Yeah, pretty standard here, I would assume.
Yeah. This card is just an insurance policy if your Isolde gets hit, as you know. A lot of players who hit your Isolde on the dump 2 effect, you kind of just assume that if they hit your Isolde, the second effect, that they have another hand trap in your hand. At least that's what I think. The other thing I want to point out real quick is that we never want to use Isolde first effect this format because Ogre is rampant. You will lose games
Yeah.
trying to use Ogre first effect. For anyone who's playing competitively, Ogre is very popular right now. Next we got Gear Freed.
3 Gear Freed. Wow.
This card is amazing. You're like, well, this card doesn't give me a start. Like, this card is not really a starter card. It's kind of dead if I don't see an equip card. Well, newsflash, Sublimation Knight can equip from deck to make this card live. I don't know if anyone knew that. You can banish the monster you equip.
Yeah,
also.
it's really good. I just realized that. That is awesome.
Additionally, you can just save this in your hand to like where if they have to hand trap you at least twice to stop you, right?
Yep.
Theoretically, if you're playing Infernoble Knights, you could play through 2 hand traps. So then you just end on a Gear Freed. You drop it after they drop all their hand traps. You still have a negate, a big monster that they have to play through, and they're playing with, 3 to 4 cards in their hand, but you have a negate still. And it just allows you to make those boards that are like kind of suboptimal, like good enough to win, because it's good enough to win if you have a Gear Freed and a couple of hand traps, like a set imperm or something like that, right? And since this format, we had to up the hand trap ratio. Gear Freed is just like infinitely better. I find myself in these simplified game states a lot more, rather than going full combo.
Yeah, I agree.
I talk about that a lot, but it's a very unique format right now where like if you don't draw hand traps, you get scythe locked and you lose, right? Or you play against that base deck, which is really good.
Yep.
A lot against, and yeah.
The rest
So
of
those are my
the
extenders, the Gear Freeds, the Power Rangers, and then I run 2 and 2.
2, Renaud. Why not 3? That is a big question.
I think this card is insane. I think it's really good, but I wanted to make room for cards that I thought were better.
Okay.
Also, I don't like seeing Ronaldo in my opening hand because it means that I'm not able to resolve my full combo if I have to use it as a warrior.
Yeah.
Uh, a lot of people don't know, but the special summon effect of Ronald is an inherent summon, so they can't negate that. The
Mm-hmm.
effect to add and put back is an activated effect. Um, I feel like I run enough searchers to where I don't really want to see 3 of this card, and it's not very good if you open up Neo Space Connector. And anybody
Yeah.
who will tell you the deck, or who has played this deck, will tell you that it feels really bad to open up Dolphin plus Ronald.
Yeah, you can't really do much.
So I value cards like, I don't know, Fireflint Lady and more than this, and Red Lair because it's a guaranteed body.
Yep.
I feel like this is more for the resource game, and this is a +1. A lot of times I'll use it off a Soul Day to add back a Living Fossil to make an Appaloosa or something like that. There's a lot of real crazy spicy plays you can play with this card, but I do like it at 2. I find 2's fine. And the same thing with Fireflint Lady, they're just extenders, but I'd rather, like, when I play this deck, I value consistency over the extension. And that's why I run the extra starters. Because I think it's insane to just have 1 card in your hand, being a Neo Space Connector or a Sublimation Knight, and having able to have full combo in your hand. The other 4 cards in your deck are live, which is insane.
Yeah, this deck is surprisingly consistent without running any pots or anything.
Like the key point that I really want to say is that, like, I play cards that just give you value. So Neo Space Connector is a +1. Sublimation Knight is a +1, right? So you're not forced to use your extra cards like the Rendell and Heritage of the Chalice to just be able to make an Assault Day, if that makes sense. Those now become extenders. Now you could play through more hand traps because you're not using them just to make your base Assault Day play. And the more cards that you have in your hand, the more your opponents fear this deck. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, how many cards in hand? I'm like, 4 cards in hand, and I'm already making like an Assault Day. They're just like, dude, what the heck? I'm
Yeah.
So that's why I value the starters over the extenders. Excuse me.
Bless you.
But I will say that it does suck to open too many normal summons.
Yeah, I do agree.
When you're going second, you have to side out either the Sublimation Knight or the Neo Space Connector, and that depends on what kind of deck you're playing. Because I feel like Neo Space Connector loses value going second because hand knowledge isn't as important.
Yep.
They're trying to break boards at this point. So a lot of times I'll side out either one or the other because going second, you don't want to like see double Neo Space Connector and Sublimation Knight because you just lose because
yeah.
you're already normal summoned, right? So just keeping that in mind. But I felt like it's surprisingly consistent. That's why I don't run Ogier, so I can run the extra cards like Sublimation Knight in my deck. Next, we're gonna go through the defense. So defense is always a very kind of, you know, touchy subject with this deck. For a while, people were running no hand traps in this deck, like no defense. Just
yeah,
like
that's not good.
I think that's just wild. Like, I like to take risk. I like to be. I like this deck. That's why I'm playing it, right? But like, just playing no hand traps or no defensive cards, I think is just like not the right call at all. It's just like, for people who win playing that way, I do believe it's luck. And I know that you probably get this comment all the time, but they're like, it's a dice roll deck. It's a dice roll deck.
Yeah.
I played in a OTS tournament regional qualifier event. I lost 7 out of 7 of my die roll and still went undefeated in Swiss because I run enough defense and I run the correct cards. But yeah, right now I run my 2 ulti nibs,
2 nib, 2 imperm,
2 ulti imperm. I've never not played this card in the main.
gamma. Okay.
So high impact. So like, because my theory is like, because we don't have as many flex spots as other decks, the hand traps that you do run have to be high impact.
I agree with in my other deck profile I did say all of my my going second cards I ran 3 Dark Ruler, 3 Droll in main deck, and the only reason why is because going second you don't really have a lot of room for hand traps. You need to play the most impactful hand traps or going second cards possible to be able to break through boards.
Yes. And then I also run 3 droll. So I run
Redraw,
10
okay.
hand traps total. And the reasoning that I run these cards, and I'll just kind of explain them, is I feel like droll and gamma are like the highest impact hand traps
Yep.
because I feel like I have enough gas to push through like 1 or 2 interruptions, but droll just kind of weakens the board, right? You're not going to stop your opponent. It's kind of like a floodgate trap, but it's strong enough to where it has good matchups against Flunder, it has good matchups against the base deck. And I'm going to talk about the base deck a lot because it's very popular right now, and it's basically people are saying it's a better version of Infernobles, but I
Yeah.
don't think so because it doesn't have any engine, it doesn't have a backbone to the deck.
Yeah.
But if you're just able to kind of like if you're a good enough player and you open correctly, you can push through 2 to 3 interruptions with
Yep.
this deck, right?
I
Droll, you kind of limit them so they don't FTK you. So like the whole point of this card is like, don't get FTK'd, right? And then I can still play the game. And that's what I view going second with this deck is like, can I play the game? And that's why I hate the Windbearer statue because it's like,
yeah, that card's broken.
yeah. So like, I just feel like this card is just like very good against matchups that I don't have a good matchup against, and like I don't mean Lancia because it's not good against every deck. And the defensive cards that you want to main deck should be generic and good against every deck and be able to combat the meta.
Yep.
Right? So I run 2 nib. I wanted to run 3. I just don't have space for it. But this is just literally for those combo decks that are like you can't stop them. Like a lot of times I just win my games against the base deck or against like a lot of those heavy combo decks like PK because I just nib imperm them.
Yeah,
I feel
double
nib
or like
imperm-
gamma imperm, nib
Yeah.
imperm. Yeah, both of
Gamma
those.
imperm, nib imperm, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to run it at 3 because it's dead against the Flunder matchup. And I keep
Mm,
talking about the Flunder matchup, but like I just really don't like that deck at all, and a lot of people are playing it. I feel like it's just like the deck. I don't know why it exists. It just tries to turbo out a Windbearer statue with like a skill drain. I'm just like, why am I playing against this?
yep. All these hand traps are good against Flunder. Like imperm, good for Flunder. The gamma's good for the D shifter, and droll is really good. So
So we run our equip spells.
3 DDR, the
Pretty standard.
3
don't like-
Durandal.
I would never run metal silver armor. That card's worth.
No, no, no. That card is
I
amazing.
don't know why anyone would run that card because we'll just talk about it for a second because I get a lot of questions on why not to run that. Listen, man, if you are resolving full combo, you're winning already. You don't need to add any extra power spikes to this deck, which I feel like Metal Silver Armor is. Do you agree that if you resolve full combo, there's like a 99% chance that you're winning?
Yeah, but I only like it only because it does weaken their board state or like their beginning turn a little bit. Like Virtual World, they can't play against Metal Silver. Like it's literally impossible for them to win. So
Yeah. And then we went 3 Heritage of Chalice.
Yep.
Another opponent for the deck.
Standard.
Just keep in mind that like these cards have multiple effects, and I just want to point this card out. This is probably one of my favorite cards in the deck. I've seen so many people play the deck and not resolve this correctly. On end phase, you always equip this to Oliver. I mean, your Charles, right? When your Charles leaves the field, you get to special summon a level 5 or lower fire warrior monster from your deck. I mean, from your grave, which is busted, right? So if they somehow out your big Charles, you just special back your Renaud and add back a DDR for follow-up.
Yep.
And they're dying next turn. And you could use this, you could send this after you equip it to search again. So it's just like really good.
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
What are the last 3 cards you were running? Oh, yep,
3
yep.
cards that you can
Yeah. Yeah, those are kind of
hate
bad.
opening every single one of these.
Cold-Wing
You
is
can still
easily the
combo
worst.
with this. It's not terrible, but I feel like whenever I open up Gemba, it's like a curse. I just lose. It's just terrible.
Yeah, I mean, what one thing you can do is you can summon Fireflint Lady off of his old, and then use Fireflint Lady's effect to summon out the Genba from your hand, is what I like to do.
Yes. That's what I do sometimes, but like I feel like I really lose because I have to normal summon my Gemba.
Yeah.
Like it's just bad because if I have a Gemba in my hand and I have to normal Gemba special Fireflint Lady, it's not looking like a good turn, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
I have to mill 4 to get the Oliver out to go into Hulk. And then I feel like I always just draw the equip card I don't need off Power Tool because I skip 4. It just becomes a very awkward game state. But
Yep.
yeah.
46
Okay,
card
so
main
that's
deck,
the
right?
main deck, 46 cards.
All right, let's move on to the extra then.
Next, I want to go over my extra deck. So this deck has 2 flex spots. One if you're running double Assault Day, but I've been running one Assault for like the last year. I don't
One
run
is
this.
old.
Yeah, I'm crazy. I just go like I'm risky, but I run one Assault. I feel like you only need one Assault. The whole purpose of Assault, if you've played this deck a lot, is just to dump Divine Sword into the grave. Yes, you get
Yeah.
farm, all the other stuff is nice, right? But like, if you can't make a Soul Day, you're just like gambling with Power Tool to try to hit the ADR and the Divine Sword.
Yeah.
But it's not absolutely necessary. It's a great card, but I value these 2 cards that I play way too much in the deck.
Sheesh. Starlight Appaloosa, huh?
Appaloosa, best card, and Unicorn.
Unicorn's
So,
great.
so anybody who's played this deck knows Unicorn is absolutely busted because it just has so much utility going second. A lot of times, someone will set like a droplet or like an imperm for your reward on. They're like, I'm not scared, and then you make a Unicorn and you
Yeah.
force it out, and the look on their face is just priceless.
Mm-hmm.
And I make Appaloosa because, believe it or not, this card is actually really easy to make in the deck, and it's a bait. So if they have a nib in hand, you just make Appaloosa, and they just go, well, it's not that good anymore.
That's how it is.
Yeah, and then I run the standard package.
Yeah.
One Hulk,
Yep.
one Assault,
Mm-hmm. Everything else is pretty standard here, I would believe.
double Ghost Rare Power Tool.
Yep. Double power tool package with the Draco sack.
Yeah, I don't know if you've done this, but like, I FTK a lot with just the Despot. Like, I don't go full combo. I'll just have a Despot with like 3,500 and just swinging at things.
That's all. I've never done that, but yeah, you can do that. And yeah, everything else is pretty standard. The Omega, Charles, and all the other synchros.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a more in-depth profile.
Oh, yeah.
Feel free to kind of message Cam or me if you have any questions. But
And then yeah, the side deck, right? So let's see what we're side decking. So we got.
So we'll go over the hand traps. So I have 7 hand traps to add into my main deck. So it just becomes like a 60, almost a 65% chance to see 2 hand traps post side. I feel like Ogre is good this format. I feel like Lancia is a very high impact card, but it's very matchup dependent.
Yeah.
And then I have the 3rd Imperm and 3rd Nib.
Yep. And then just to side in, if you just need the extra stopping like PKs, Nib Imperm, Nib Gamma, always a blessing to draw.
Yes. And then just run these
Yep.
back row removal cards. I want to run 6 back row cards because, you know, if you get floodgated, you have to be very, I guess, creative to get rid of those back row cards.
Yeah, it's not easy. That's why I find the hardest matchups to be back row decks.
Yeah, so I just deemed like Red Reboot is a must to have in the side deck. It's just a blowout card. Same with Feather Duster. And then I like the 2 Cosmics for banishing and their quick effects. So I would run 6, but I just see more combo at my locals. So
Yep.
And then my favorite card in the side deck,
Prohibition. Yep.
best card. People are asking why I don't run Crossout Designator. It's because Lancia is in the format, and people just shotgun the Lancia, and your Crossout's kind of dead unless you just blind call something. But I feel like this is like a pseudo, like, a pseudo Dolphin, essentially, like, plus like another Dolphin. Because like I'm always getting the Dolphin, and then I look at your hand, and then I call the other hand trap. Because like post side, I always have 2 hand traps against you, right?
Yep.
So like this is like the other hand trap that I'm trying to counter. And if I open up really bad, I just always blind call the Bureau, and I'm like 10 for 10 with that.
Pretty much is how it works.
Because like I just feel like if they're holding a hand trap, like what hand traps are you gonna hold? And the 2 hand traps that you're gonna be holding, like if they haven't hand trapped you yet, are gonna be impermanent nib. But for some reason, it's always the Bureau. So.
Yep. I want to thank Rich once again for coming on the channel, and I'm going to be posting even more Infernoble Night videos later down the road. But yeah, if you do ever want to play Infernoble Nights, join the Facebook group. Great place to learn. It's not like those other dumb Facebook groups, I promise. The Infernoble group's actually smart. Deck theory's crazy. Shoutouts to Gianfranco H, best Infernoble player in the world right now, I would assume. But
Yeah, shout out to him. I've had several discussions with him. He's a really cool dude. So.
Yep. All right. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell me what you want to see next in the comments. Peace.